Today I'm going to show you how to render marble. So the first thing I did was got some images from the internet and printed those out. So as you can see, there's lots of different types of marble, there's lots of different colours, and it's up to you which ones you want to try. So I've matched some of the colours in here to some markers. So I'll use some markers. I'll also use the coloured pencils. I'll be using the greys as well. I've got a white pencil and the Posca pen, also a black pencil, and I think that's about it. So let's get started. Marble's not that hard to do. You only need to do very little to get a really good effect. So I'm just going to start with using the C0, and I'm actually going to use some watercolour pencils. So if you have watercolour pencils, that would be great. Otherwise you can use just normal coloured pencils. So all I'm doing is trying to get this kind of effect here with the veins. So I could even just use a grey rather than black, but this is watercolour pencil, so it will sort of blend in once I put the marker over it. I'm not going exactly for this image, but I'm just getting the idea from this photo of what those veins sort of look like. It's very random, and you'd notice that there's no real straight lines either. Sometimes you might have a bit more of a shadow and then might go off into a smaller vein, but it's very sort of ununiform. So I'll get my marker out now. This is the C0, and I'm just going to use it in a circular fashion because I don't want to see any actual stripes. So I'll just keep going around and around. And some of those bits I might work into a little bit more with the marker. And then even while it's still wet, I could go back in and just work into some of those areas a bit more. Now, I'm probably doing it a little bit darker than I might normally go, but I just want to make sure that you can see that on the camera. And you know, you can see that the veins don't go all the way through, they just sort of stop and start. It's really quite random. I'll just put a bit of a shadow in there. Now I can get the marker again and go over it again. So in some places I might leave it a bit darker. I might leave some of the other parts. If you've got a blender, that would work well with this also. Because as you can see, some marbles are very light in colour. Sometimes you might have a bit of another colour in there, a bit of ochre, something like that. So you could use your markers to put those in. Once again, while it's wet is good, because it sort of bleeds a little bit. And you could also use a coloured pencil. So this one's just a normal coloured pencil, it's not a watercolour pencil, but you could try both. And I might just try and darken, because it's looking a little bit bright, so I might just try and darken it off a little bit with the marker, with the grey, just to knock it back a little bit. So it's something that you can just sort of keep working on, keep working into. But as you can see, it's not that hard to get that marbly kind of effect. Just don't try and do anything straight, and let things sort of die off some of your line work, rather than you know, following it all the way through. And then you can just work into it again as much as you like. As you can see, I'm just using the C0 mainly, so I'm not going any darker. Once again, yeah, if you've got a 0 or a blender, you could just use that also. If I wanted to try one of these darker marbles, what you can do is, using your white pencil and your Posca pen, first of all I'm just going to put down some white pencil. It's a bit hard to see what I'm doing, but I'm just doing random sort of lines and shapes, trying to follow the idea of what's happening in this one. Doesn't matter too much with the first go, because you will be doing more layers, and this is just giving one of the tones of the grey. So I'm going to use, I will use my C9 rather than black. If we're doing something, I do want you to try doing your actual, you can do the template, you can do some of the shapes that you've done before, but obviously when you're doing something three-dimensional, you need to have some areas that are darker and some areas that are lighter, so depending on where the light's hitting it. So you wouldn't want to go too dark straight away. In fact, I probably should have started much lighter than that, because I really don't have anywhere really to go very much except up to C10 and then special black. But I'll just this is just to give you an idea of the technique. So I'm coming back into it with the white pencil, because it's still a bit wet. It's not, the white pencil isn't showing up too much. If I waited for it to dry, I'd probably get much brighter whites. So now our veins are the lighter parts of the marble, because it's black. We can use the Posca pen as well. I'm going to go over this Posca pen, but when you're doing it towards the end, yeah, you will note that it's very white, and it's very high contrast, so you can cover parts of it. So once again, very random, shaky lines, nothing straight. I might just try and put some more white pencil, see if it's a bit dry. No, it still seems to be very wet, or it's not going on very well, which isn't too bad, I suppose, because we sort of want that cloudy kind of effect at times anyway. So I might just go over it with the C9 again, and maybe just in some places, and I might leave some bits, some parts where the white Posca's showing through. So you can see it sort of repels the, or resists the white Posca. And once again, you can keep working into this until you feel that it's looking like the marble in the example. So I have this template that I made. I'm not sure whether some of you might have taken it, but what you can do is just trace some of the objects from your other sheets and use those to do the marble with. So it'd be good to have some cylinders and some spheres and maybe some cubes as well. As with any 3D object, when you're rendering these, make sure you're thinking about the form first. So the detail can come later. So I'm just going to use C1 and C0 to do a really light kind of marble for this one. So I'm just going to cover the whole area first with C0. And once again, just making those squiggly kinds of lines. And I'll get the C1 now just to put some darker tone at the bottom. It's not showing up very much. So I'm imagining that my light is coming from, I'll have it coming from this side, so this will be the lighter face. So I don't want to see any lines. Get the C1 again. Sorry, C0 again, just to blend that a bit more. And I think I've got to C2. So it's a light marble that I'm attempting to render here. So I don't want to go too much darker than that, but we still need to see that it's a three-dimensional form. And it will darken anyway once we start working in with the marble veins. Okay, so I've just got a very sort of light coating of the greys to start with.